effectively as I can be is this. And I think I've said this before, but it's important to say. This has come about because of the new DNA they have on genetic testing for your background. I don't know if you've had it done. Well, okay, the old way, you test. If someone says, "What are you?" Well, I would say I'm a Italian, German, French, Irish, and American Indian. That's the relatives in the past. The new testing for all that stuff is now done with DNA. So it's different, and you discover things that you did not realize, or your family didn't realize, because it's not part of their history, but it's there. So when you have influence in a family or in every individual, through the generations, these things build up. So with the new DNA, they can discover them. And I remember when my Nancy told me they had it done, and they discovered things they never knew. They never knew. The reason why that's important is, as I mentioned before, and I'll mention again, when I read both The Conquest of New Spain, and I met the Hispanic police officer, who's my friend, and I told him how much I valued Diaz, because, like Caesar, he used his brains to conquer. He used what they believed, because they believed, like the Mormons say, and it says in Scripture, I have other sheep, that Jesus visited the New World at one time. Now, they didn't know it was Jesus, it was this tall guy, blah, blah, and he was going to come back. Diaz took that and conformed it to Jesus.
Okay, but what's this got to do with DNA?
I'll tell you in a second. We are all influenced, because until you have that DNA work done, all that stuff is in you, and it lingers, and it can come up at different times in different ways.
And what do you mean lingers, or it could come up? What?
I'll give you it had.
What are you trying to say?
What I'm trying to say is the influences in your life and how you live your life go back more generations than you think. And the new DNA, if you have it done, it's worth talk to Nancy, she had it done. You just find out things you didn't know. And it's there. That's all. I mean.
But you're not telling me why.
Because it comes.
It's either good or it's bad.
Well, it can be both. It can be both. It can be the influences. Influences linger longer than you think in your body. I told you the example from my life when I said something in a very stern voice to my mother. And she froze for a second. She said, "That's exactly what your grandfather said." I never knew he said that. I'm just saying it's interesting that if you have the new have you ever had the DNA done on you?
Yes, I've done the 23andMe. I found ancestors. I know who I am.
Right.
I know the family I came from.
Have you done the new DNA?
What's the new DNA? 23andMe is the new DNA.
All right, then you
that connects you to relatives that you don't know you have.
All right, then you found out. What did you find out that was? What did you find out? What surprised you, in other words?
Absolutely nothing other than the fact that I came from 2 royal lines. That's it.
Oh yeah, you did have it done. Okay.
Yes, and that we do have a family member that is a legend in my family.
Yes, you did.
And I come from a fighting family. I come from people who do not give up, who will continue,
right,
who will live, who will succeed. So I come from a fighting line.
Okay, very good, Your Majesty.
You're right.
Right. So let me end on this note.
But nothing new.
I get it. All right.
other than how
Okay.
closely, how much royalty is
But
on
you
our
learn,
blood.
you learn things.
Because there's more royalty than I
Right.
thought.
Okay. Let me end on this note then. The for people that are Catholic, they will find this interesting. Um, the Orthodox Church is considered the other lung of Christianity. They're in communion, but not completely, because it's split in 1054. It's interesting. Years ago, um, I got a copy through the mail of the Magna Carta, which the English nobility made the king sign. In that Magna Carta, the first line is, it says, the Church of England shall be independent. Now, if you look at the history of Christianity from when it began, and you go to things like that, you can say, I knew right, oh wow, there was going to be a break. When it would come about was anybody's question. I believe, just so you know, I don't mean to offend anyone, that the real tragedy for the Catholic Church is when Jesus said, what you bound, and he said, thou art Peter, upon this rock I shall build my church. What you bound on earth will be bound on heaven. That was a good thing for this reason. It allowed the average person to see what they were doing. Think there was reform then through the centuries. When the Catholic Church changed that from bound to infallible, that was no longer possible. That's not in Scripture. The idea that Peter and his successors could bound things was good because it was the only way the average person could see what they were doing. And if they thought the church was too secretive, going too far, that was the idea. Jesus set up the right thing. I have no problem as a Protestant telling you, thou art Peter, upon this rock I shall build my church, what you bound on earth will be bound on heaven. Because I know what they bind. Since 1870, that has changed. You don't change the infallible, and you don't know what it is. And that's where they go crazy. This is why, and it's something that literally shocked me. I love Pius XII. He was like the last good pope. But as we know now, in fact, I have pictures, which are. I was taught. Did you go to Catholic school?
I wasn't raised Catholic.
Okay, I was taught that Mary. In fact, I always thought this made sense. It said Mary was the new Eve, right?
Yeah.
And that makes sense. I have no problem with that. And that she would not die and go to heaven. She did die. She did die. And all through the 50s, if you missed the Assumption, the Holy Day of Obligation, it was a mortal sin. Well, now the Catholics claim a different passage, a very Protestant passage. Well, Jesus came and got her, but she was dead in the tomb. That's not ascending into heaven without dying, friends. And no one told the truth in the Catholic Church all through my years in school. They literally lied. And it wasn't until recently when I saw when someone came back, this was on Catholic radio, they came back from Israel, and in Israel there's a, quote, tomb where Mary was buried. In fact, John Paul II said, yes, Mary did die. And so apparently Jesus, and there's a picture where, the two Marys. So you got to be careful whatever church you belong to, because every church is a power center. And like people, like nature, they will acquire as much power as possible. And this is not Catholic bashing, friends. You look it up. John Paul II said, yes, Mary did die. Well, the new Eve wasn't supposed to die. She was supposed to go on. And when they came back, here's the grave in Israel. And then the Catholic guy on the radio said, oh, yeah, well, we go to Ephesians or whatever it is, and talks about Jesus coming for the saints or whatever. But the point is, that's not what I was taught in school. So you got to, as Reagan said, trust but verify. Because power seeks more power. And that's frankly all I have to say. I think would you agree with that?
No, I would, because I believe the people who are in power right now and the ones squawking about it, they are all doing us harm.
Yeah.
And they are trying to squeeze more and more money out of us for their pockets.
Right.
They're not thinking about all of us who have to stay home, who are suffering at home because of everything that's going on. Those who are out there campaigning and doing their thing and stabbing each other in the back and putting each other down, all for a campaign who's going to be running for president, who cares? Right now, no one cares.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, everyone's angry, everyone's upset. Nobody cares who's in the office right now. Nobody. No one cares who's running for office right now. Right now, the American people need someone to stand up and say, we are here to help you.
Right.
We are here to do what we can